and some of the most powerful analog horror entities stand up against Kratos from the God of War franchise. Well, in this video, I will examine both Kratos and some analog horror creatures to see who would most likely come out on top in a hypothetical confrontation. For the analog horror entities, I will use Monument Mythos, and nothing else, cause no other analog horror really compares except this one, and also kinda this one from Unorthodox Kitten. And now to decide what version of Kratos to use. Let's start with Kratos when he was young. For this, let's use some inverse scaling to get an idea of what the Ghost of Sparta can do. So let's dive into the Greek mythos. First, there were the Primordials, who created everything according to the first games. The creation of everything was just a result of their long battles, so that automatically places them at low multiversal, because in Greek mythos, there are many realms and dimensions that are infinite, and then you have the Titans, who are above the Primordials, as stated here. Then beyond the Titans are the gods of Olympus. Each of them are able to confront any Titan and win, and the strongest of the Olympians are Poseidon, Hades, and Zeus, with Zeus being the strongest of the Greek pantheon, being able to take out Hades and Poseidon pretty easily. And then you have Kratos, who is able to win against Zeus without breaking too much of a sweat. So in summary, Kratos is above beings who are multiversal just from the God of War games in the Greek mythos alone. For some other feats, he is also able to keep up with the light of Helios, which is stated to be able to light up all of the infinite underworld. He fought and defeated the Sisters of Fate, which have magic that can alter fate, and if needed, they can alter it manually by going back in time. And he's able to attack spirits using his weaponry like the claws of Hades. Then we move on to the Norse mythos. First, let's begin with Ymir, who is stated to be the embodiment of creation and chaos. From Ymir came the Yggdrasil, which is a tree that infinitely spans all throughout the Norse mythos. This tree is beyond time and dimensions, which makes it an infinite fifth-dimensional tree. Then there are the Norse gods. The main god in the Norse pantheon is Odin, who, by using the body parts of Ymir, created the 9 realms, which each act like their own dimension in a sense. And then the son of Odin, Thor, who is also a big powerhouse. Using Mjolnir, he can splinter the infinite fifth-dimensional Yggdrasil, and is able to punch Jormungand, the world serpent, back in time. Now Odin was also able to make a tree prison for this fella, that of which Mjolnir could not break or splinter. And we move on to how Kratos compares to all of this. Kratos has a comparable weapon to Mjolnir, which is the Leviathan axe. He was able to beat the powerful Thor, and he stood up against his father Odin, and also won, albeit with some difficulty because of the powerful magic that Odin has at his disposal. So in summary, time travel is no problem for Kratos. Being able to create realms, universes, and all that is not an issue. Being an infinite fifth-dimensional tree does not save it from getting damaged by foes that Kratos has killed. And you have some other magic that Odin, which can also affect people traveling to different realms. And so just a small gander as to what Kratos has been able to accomplish. He's quite a tough fella that is also absurdly strong and durable, and immeasurably fast. And now to move on to our singular analog horror series, Monument Mythos. First, let me say that I'm aware that many, if not all, the entities are paradoxically interconnected in some way, but for the simplicity of the video, I would just treat them as separate people to make things a bit more coherent. So let's look at the D-Day Knight, the Crescent King, the Horned Serpent, and God, who is Nixon. Starting us off is the D-Day Knight, a person who has a skull as a helmet and helped the USA in D-Day. He's a powerful knight who helped prevent the assimilation of humanity by the Lunarians, by wiping them all out. This powerful entity is able to manipulate Alcatraz matter, that is essentially special matter that has a different flow to that of the universe. Because of this special property, it is quite destructive and can even defy fate because of its opposing flow to the universe. This, coupled along with his quick-to-anger personality and combat experience, drove him to kill the Lunarians and the Queen of the Lunarians with Alcatraz matter in the event known as Alcatraz Checkmate. For actual power of the D-Day Knight, let's look at some of what he has done in the Monument Mythos analog horror. For physical strength, it did say on the wiki page, on the trivia part, that he can bench press 1.7 million kilos. If we take this and just run with it and use some shoddy math and just equating each kilogram bench press to that of 1 kilogram of TNT, then we get the strength of the D-Day Knight, which can be around that of a small to medium-sized nuke. For durability, he's able to take what he can dish out, and then some. This just means that he could take some nukes and still survive. He also has several powers such as fate immunity because of the Alcatraz matter he is made of, shapeshifting, and telekinesis, along with the ability to fly. Then we have the Crescent King, who was basically a possessed and brainwashed last son of Alcatraz, which was already kind of a rival to the D-Day Knight. This mimetically invincible being that has some internal nuclear reaction power proves so much of a problem that Nixon resorted to fictionalize the Nixonverse to properly get rid of the threat of the Crescent King. This entity is able to mind and soul manipulate, create terrible illusions, and create giant nuclear explosions when aligned with the moon, and a couple reality warping and distorting powers. He can also possess people and can be empowered by the fear and paranoia of others when they think of him. This mimetic power also persists after his defeat, which is why fictionalization was needed. And now the Horned Serpent, which resulted from George Washington cutting down a special tree and then going into Wonderland, which is the result of a crazy paradoxical birth where its existence caused its own birth. Because the Horned Serpent is the metastructure or Wonderland itself, it was essentially made from a fragment of itself that then became a special tree that then George Washington cut. So anything that the Wonderland can do, the Serpent can as well, because they are one and the same. And the Wonderland can bend and distort reality, exist outside of space and time, be incorporeal, time, mind, and soul manipulate, can bring out the powers of subjective reality, and can do some plot manipulation. This all just means that the Horned Serpent can play with reality. And for durability, it can survive an event that destroyed the entire cosmology of the Deanverse. Now, what caused the destruction of the Deanverse? Well, the Serpent just woke up from a long nap. That's what destroyed it. And this makes it so the Horned Serpent is a massive danger and threat to any universe it is in. And when referring to subjective reality, it just means that the Horned Serpent can cross the line of fiction and reality by making anything real or fiction, and vice versa. And now, for the man, the Mythos, the 37th President of the United States himself, Nixon. This character, made of the special Alcatraz matter and some of the power of the Horned Serpent, was able to fictionalize the Nixonverse to stop a mimetically immortal being. He's also made the last son of Alcatraz and the D-Day Knight, so he stands on some business. Being made of the same Alcatraz matter as the D-Day Knight and the last son of Alcatraz, he's able to defy fate just like them. And to give a bit more of an in-depth explanation again to how it works, it flows differently to the universe. It means that Alcatraz atoms follow what the person's will wants, as compared to the natural progression of things in the universe. Nixon also has subjective reality, similar to the Horned Serpent, which is how he turned the Nixonverse into a comic book. And then you got the reality warping stuff and so on, and he also supersedes the D-Day Knight and the Son of Alcatraz in terms of strength, speed, and durability. So now let's see if one of the most powerful analog horror super series can stand up against the Ghost of Sparta. So let's begin with the D-Day Knight. When it comes to comparing raw strength, durability, and speed, Kratos takes every edge, showing much more impressive speed, strength, and durability feats. Kratos is easily able to scale above the impressive 1.7 million kilo bench of the D-Day Knight. When looking at more abstract powers of each, we can see that the D-Day Knight scales to low universal at the very best because of his Alcatraz matter, which flows differently to the universe, not the multiverse. Now, Kratos has fought the Sisters of Fate, which also alter fate. It's kind of in the name. And with the weapons, he's also able to kill immortal gods that can easily dispatch primordials, who, let me remind you, created a multiverse casually by just throwing hands. And so you got someone who would be able to counter the Alcatraz matter. Again, remember, Kratos has weapons that can splinter an infinite world tree that exists pretty much everywhere in the Norse part of the God of War series. Then we move on to the Crescent King. This is interesting, because the only real way to kill the Crescent King is by having everybody forget that it exists, which is what makes it mimetically immortal, coupled along with not being able to take physical damage, and you need something like the Claws of Hades or the Olympian Sword. So let's just say that the Crescent King can survive Kratos through mimetic means. That would be no issue, because even if the Crescent King uses all of his manipulation and possession powers, Kratos would still be resistant because he has fought beings that can do about the same, but just a little bit better. And then there's a whole lot of magic that can seal away much more powerful foes and keep them trapped for eternity, which Kratos could get his hands on. And considering that Kratos beats the Crescent King in strength, speed, and durability, it would just be a game of cat and mouse for Kratos. Then we move on to Nixon. for every category of durability, strength, and speed, Nixon surpasses the D-Day Knight by quite a bit. He can also make things fiction and change fate. And you know who else surpasses the D-Day Knight and can change fate?
My mom!
No wait, I mean your mother. Wait, no, I mean the Sisters of Fate. Though it is a bit different, it still has several parallels as to how it is done. And fictionalization, well, that could work, but again, Kratos has fought and killed multiverse-level creators quite handily, and via God of War tomfoolery and some magic, Kratos has the means to actually resist fictionalization, with one example being the power of hope. Then, lastly, we have the big Serpent, the Horned Serpent. A lot of the same reality warping capabilities as the other Monument Mythos entities applies here for the Serpent, but at a much larger and better scale. The Serpent exists outside of time and space, scaling much higher than anything else on the list. But Kratos has beings which also pose a threat in a more multiversal way, and any reality warping stuff and subjective reality powers from the Serpent are also nullified, just like with the Nixon. So at the end of the day, young Kratos from God of War 3 and old Kratos from God of War Ragnarok or Valhalla have a pretty good chance at winning. So in essence, analog horror does not survive against Kratos at all.
If you are still around, I got a quick little message for you. I would like to kindly ask if you could subscribe to the channel with all notifications, and if you'd be so kind as to please subscribe to my second channel, so we can get to 1,000 subscribers. I hear the content there is quite exquisite, and will be gaming and internet-related videos that are a bit more edgy as seen with my older works. And please make sure to drop a like and comment down below on your way out. See you on the next one.